I'm not a forensic expert, but the video, you can almost make a similar comparison.
Right.
Um, as far as body type, skin color, um, and so, and knowing black people like we know black people, right? We're not just guessing on skin color. We know how certain things work, or as far as our appearances go.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just say real life street stars. Know what time it is.
Real life street stars, man. We got our lawyer in here, the real life lawyer. Larry, what's up, man?
Man, not a whole lot, man. Not a whole lot. How you doing?
I mean, I'm doing all right, man. There's a lot of crazy things that are happening right now, and it's back to back. And I just had to grab you and just get your legal take on this, man. So what I want to kind of start with is Yella Beezy murder for hire.
Hmm.
When you saw that, what did you say to yourself?
First thing I said was jail calls. I said jail calls are involved, right? Because if it's murder for hire, um, as a police officer investigating it, how do you know and where do you go to find out who he paid to do the hit? You don't necessarily have that blueprint. But what you can do is you can sit down, you can listen to these jail calls of people who you think might be involved, the people who you feel are definitely involved, and listen to who they're talking to and what the chatter is. And usually, when you have a case like that, the police don't have anything. And so those jail calls become extremely important.
Right. Why 5 years later?
I think I said it before. I said this particular DA doesn't do knee jerk reactions. He's very methodical as far as how he and his staff goes about doing things, and they weren't just going to jump out there too early. They were going to make sure that they did their investigators did their work, and they had something solid. And when he felt that it was a solid case, then they were going to react.
And compared to like murder, how serious is murder for hire as far as the like law is concerned?
I mean, when you think about the different levels of how homicide takes place, you and I can get into a fist fight. Not you and I, right? Not you and me, but me and that dude right there. We might get into it, and it's mutual combat. I hit him, he falls, he dies, right? And so now, depending on the situation, it's just a homicide. That one, the loss of life is always serious. But then when you start ratcheting up the levels, that's one way. Now, if I go out and shoot him because I'm angry at him, is that a crime of passion? That's another thing. But then if I go out and shoot him for money, now I'm getting into the first degree because now I have plotted, planned, and not just deprive him of his life, but deprive him of some kind of property. This one is you actually working with others in concert and paying money to kill someone. So it's extremely serious because you have a bunch of people in play. And so now you really, if you think about it, you don't have just one murderer, you have multiple murderers. Because if I'm willing to say, I want you dead, that means I'm also potentially willing to kill you. But then if I bring in other people who are working with me to kill you, now I have a group of murderers who are running around Dallas County.
Could he be considered for like a RICO type of situation because they're saying that he facilitated all these people XYZ XYZ?
Most definitely. We kind of talked about this before. When you start getting multiple parties involved, and then what really brings the feds in is when you start using interstate commerce, when you start using things like PayPal, Cash App, things that move money around that involves, uh, you know, interstate transit, and that's considered. The internet is considered part of that, right? Wire transfers, anything that goes over those digital lines, then you open yourself up for even more serious uh, crimes or accusations.
So I think he was charged with capital murder, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the worst.
Right.
Right.
That is, you're looking at life without the ability of parole or the death penalty.
Right. I'm gonna pick up. I forgot my train of thought. Oh, okay. Bond.
But let's go back to what you asked me
Go ahead.
at first, and I was talking about the jail calls.
Right.
Right. That's one way in a case like this that officers get information. I said that they listen to all the parties who might be involved, but then the person that they have in custody becomes almost like a conduit for them to find others who are not in custody. And
Right.
that's when they really start going and lining people up uh, and interrogating or investigating the crime by talking to people outside. And so when that type of heat starts coming, man, people start talking.
Right.
And, and the crazy thing about it is your half truth might actually answer someone else's half truth, and now they have a full understanding of what took place. So if assailant A says, "Oh man, we went over there around 12 and nothing was going on, and we picked up woody woo," assailant B says, "Oh no, nah, we went over there probably closer to 1, and then this was happening." They take what they know to be true and put those two stories together and help them uh, narrow what really happened. And that's one of the biggest problems with cases like this. When you bring in other parties, you just never know who's going to say what.
Right. At first, Yella Beezy had no bond.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How is someone able to get bond when they say no bond? Can you break that down?
Your lawyer. Usually, a lawyer goes in and argues the fact that you have a constitutional right to have some amount set. Um, I saw where the state had said that he was a flight risk, that he was a danger to the community. And those are usually things that the prosecutors say to either keep you in jail with no bond or to get a high bond. In this case, he has a high bond. If he is able to get out and pay that bond, he'll be most likely required to wear a monitor and
Right.
be house detained. That's for his safety and for the safety of others. And if he should do anything to violate while he's on house arrest before this trial, chances are the next time he's arrested or he's brought in, he will receive no bond.
Right. As a prosecutor, would you have tried to get? Would you have said no bond as a prosecutor?
Yeah, you always want to say no bond.
Right.
You want to say no bond. Why? Because if I got you locked up, what did I say? First thing, jail calls.
Right.
I got now, in order for you to communicate with anyone,
You have to.
I'm there. I'm listening to everything. And a lot of people think they talk slick and talk in circles, but you best believe there's someone who can translate that.
There's a lot of alleged rumors that say Trap Boy Freddy is on the run now because of that. If he was really on the run, I mean, that would be somewhere right here where they would have been and got him by now, and he wouldn't just be able to post and do stuff, right?
Not necessarily. It just really depends on. So anyone who is affiliated with Beezy, if they see this and they run, it's not necessarily because if they wanted Trap Boy, chances are they would have acted in concert. They would have arrested Beezy at the same time that they arrested Trap Boy, because you don't want to arrest one person and then have another person just skedaddle if he's someone or there's someone that you think were actually involved in the murder.
If it is true that he is on the run, allegedly,
Mm-hmm.
in your professional opinion, if he wasn't charged with anything, because there's no word that he has been charged with anything, why would he go on the run?
I'm probably gonna get in trouble for this one, but ask Russell Simmons. He left the country before any indictment came against him. You feel them hairs on the back of your neck start flaring up and you feel like something's coming your way, a lot of times you'll have people who will skedaddle. I mean, if you think about it, and just being honest, this system is not, it's, I don't know any person of color who's ever said that the criminal system was treated them fair or good for them.
Right.
And so because of that, he might feel that if his name is somehow in the mix, it's just best for him to lay low or get out the way.
Can there be self-defense in a murder for hire?
This one is going to be interesting, right? So I looked at I looked at what you guys have put out and looked at what some of the other things that have been said. So Yella Beezy was shot off of the toll road a couple of years back or several years back.
Right.
At that time, there's been no, for what I know and what I've read, there's been no arrest. Yet and still, there was a diss song put out that basically talked about the shooting. And at the end of that, it basically said, I missed this time, but I won't next time.
Right.
And so now, I mean, just depending on Yella Beezy's the situation, the defense may look at this and saying that he lived in constant fear of his life, and law enforcement had not found the person who shot him.
Right.
And so, it gets to be real interesting because I don't know how I would react if I was in constant fear of my life and my family in constant fear of their life. We just saw several weeks ago that when shooters come after you, they don't care if there's a little girl in the car.
Right. What could that charge be reduced to?
I don't know if they would reduce it more so than do something on the plea, as far as the time is concerned. I don't know if they would reduce it. And it might be something that you might have to put to a jury and let a jury say that they feel that the story was compelling enough that, law enforcement didn't take care of him. So he put the law in his own hands.
So Keywan White, I believe that's his name, aka Banzo Bling. They say he's the star witness of this trial. What are your thoughts on that?
That, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is he was probably someone who was in the middle of the transaction, right? So I'm sitting next to someone and they say they want to kill X, Y, Z. And I was like, I got a man who can do that for you. And he might have said, it's going to run $5,000, $10,000, and I'll make sure that it's done. So he might have been somehow in between the shooter and the person who hired him.
Great. So there's going to be an interview that's going to come out in a second, and he's going to say that he did not shoot MO3.
I mean, that's interesting, right? Because the video, I'm not a forensic expert, but the video, you can almost make a similar comparison.
Right.
As far as body type, skin color, and knowing black people like we know black people, right? We're not just guessing on skin color. We know how certain things work, or as far as our appearances go.
Right.
That's going to be a really hard one to explain. And not saying that there's not someone who has that same characteristic.
Right.
But I think the thing that hurts him the most is the videos and things that he's been a part of, showing guns in his hands and being a convicted felon. PSA, if you're a convicted felon, man, don't be anywhere near a gun. Don't hold a gun. If you got a gun and you're a convicted felon, be prepared potentially to have federal consequences. Just off the rip. Don't even be in a house with a gun in it.
How would you tell a convicted felon to protect himself? if need be.
Move somewhere where you feel safe.
Period.
Period. Move somewhere where you feel safe.
Convicted felons allowed to have mace.
You can have mace, but you cannot have a firearm.
Okay. Just get a little bit more tactical.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I also tell people, like say for example, in a Lil Wayne situation, someone who is famous or someone who has some notoriety or someone who has the means. If you're really in that position where you're afraid for your life, hire someone who has a registered firearm, or hire off-duty officers to take care of you. When I take care of my clients and they have situations like that, I make sure I have off-duty officers protecting them because number one, they're clean and taken care of. Two, I have someone who's trained in firearms and someone who's licensed and someone who's recognized to carry a firearm, protecting them. Not some Joe Blow, not anyone just off the streets, but someone who understands that and understands law enforcement.
Right. Banzo Bling also says that he's not locked up for the murder of MO3, and you can go check it out on pacer.gov.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to that? Is there any way that they will hide these things? Like, is that a possibility?
So let's go back to Beezy's, and I'll explain it that way.
Right.
Even in the short PC affidavit, if you want to call it that, there's not a whole lot of details. But evidently, there was enough details to arrest this man 5 years later.
Right.
The state or the government is never going to put the full story out there. It's just too risky.
I want to change the subject.
Okay.
All right. Did you see that? I don't want to clear his name wrong. Sauce Walker and his artist was shot yesterday. Did you see that?
No, I missed that one.
Okay. We're not gonna go there anymore. All right. Let me think of another question. Hold on.
I think you may have mentioned this before, but since we're on the topic, Yella Beezy did get a bond. There is potential of him getting out. What would be your best advice to him moving forward? Because we know throughout the past 5 years, he has not spoken a lot about anything that really had to do with MO3 or their beef or anything of that nature. So now he's being charged with this. He may get out on bond. What would be your best approach?
Get somewhere safe. Get somewhere where you can sit down with your legal team, sit down with your investigators, and start planning your defense. Right now. Right now. Don't spend a day letting your mama cook your favorite meal and all your family come over and get in your ear. Sit down with your defense team and let your dogs loose because you in a dog fight and you don't have time because they had 5 years. They got a head start on you.
Also, Yella Beezy lost his case against Mo3's manager, Rainwater, a few months ago, I believe. Do you think that situation will be used against him, considering the fact that was his manager? They were so tight-knit, and that he did lose the case to him?
I think I remember watching that. I might have talked about it on here. Right. Wasn't that a contract dispute as far as money and?
Well, Yella Beezy allegedly ran down Rainwater and beat him up.
That's right.
During the height of the war.
Right. No. I mean, it can be used to show that they were willing to use violence, right? But I don't know necessarily if that gets me or anyone else to say that if I'm willing to jump you with 2 other people or beat you up myself, that I'm willing to go and hire someone
Right.
to shoot you. So I don't know if it connects the dots in that regard. You may use it to kind of show that he had the propensity to use violence, but you run the risk of having your jury ask the question, if I was truly that sensitive about this situation, why wouldn't I have killed him too?
Oh, that's a good defense. Since Yella Beezy has had to come up with this $200,000 bond, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does it say about rainwater money after he won?
Nothing really. I mean, the bond can be paid by anybody.
So will Rain still be entitled to his money?
Yeah. If he has a judgment and it's not been appealed, he has a right to issue or go after and utilize that judgment.
So, for instance, like say Yella Beezy has to come with a defense team, right? And that could cost up to $1 million or something like that, right? Just say it does, right? And it wipes out all his money. I don't know how much money he has, but it wipes out his money. How does Rain get his money?
Ooh, man, that's a very technical question. I'm gonna tell you for two reasons. Because sometimes you have situations in which you have judgments against you, and money that you may have used for one thing instead of paying that judgment can be clawed back,
Right.
for say. So if I owe my man's $10 and I give you $10, he can come back and say, nah, that was my $10. You need to give that back to me, because he should have never given it to you.
Right.
So, but at the same time, you're talking about criminal defense, man. A lot of times, most people don't even pay for their own defense. It's always a family member or something of that nature that steps in and pays for the defense. So he still will be entitled to his money, but he just would not be entitled to others' monies that are being utilized for his criminal defense.
While we're on the subject of settlements, you hear a lot of stories about celebrities maybe going to court and they win, a certain amount of money in court, but that years pass and they haven't received it. So can you break that down a little bit more about how like people can be like the judgment may say, yeah, you owe this person this money, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get your money or get it in a timely fashion.
I think in the legal system there is unfortunately a gap. And for example, we may actually sue someone and get a judgment, right? And just depending on the situation, a lot of times when you talk about celebrities, you're talking about attorneys who are not working on contingency. Contingency meaning that I get paid once you get paid. Most of those, if not all of those lawsuits, are not contingency. What they are is pay to play. And so if you pay me to get you $2 million and I get you that $2 million verdict, once that happens, I'm done. Here's a piece of paper that says that person owes you by $2 million and it's been signed off by the judge. You got this verdict, go with God. And there's a big gap at people knowing or people utilizing services to actually go after that money. And just depending on your state too. So if you're looking at this, Texas is homestead, so we have a lot of protections. Our home, our first car. So we have a lot of protections that people can't necessarily get judgments on or take things. But other places, you can take people's houses, you can take their cars, you can, what else can you do? You can actually seize their bank accounts. So there's a couple of different things that you can do just depending on the state that you're in.
You get a charge like murder for hire. How does this hurt you? Like pockets wise, like does it go deeper than the charge itself? Like his sponsorships, his.
Oh man, look, you will. So a lot of people don't know this. When you throw an event, chances are there's a rider, an insurance rider that's been put in place, right? And that says that we will protect you if anything happens. but these are guidelines. No one is going to potentially write an underwriting policy for Yella Beezy to perform. So that's definitely going to hurt him.
Right.
And so, as a brand, that hurts. And so, yeah, he runs the risk of his money drying up until this is over with.
Right. So, as say if you were Yella Beezy lawyer and he let you know everything that was going on, allegedly, right? How would you have told him to move?
Say that one more time.
Like how you say, I got a good relationship with my lawyer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can kind of tell him what I'm doing and how I'm moving, right?
You can tell me anything.
Yeah, right. And so, how if I was Yella Beezy and I was letting you know what was going on, how would you advise me to move? If I knew there was someone that was coming at me, threatening my life every day, shooting people around me, shot me allegedly,
I would tell him to go somewhere and not tell anyone but the people who were staying with him where he was at, and limit those individuals. Plain and simple. I would tell him to go to a secure building, go somewhere where they knew you felt safe. And then I would, in all intents and purposes, ask if it's okay if we potentially either have off duty officers around the clock out in that area just to make sure coming and going, the people who were coming in to see him were safe.
Right. And from another legal standpoint, say if I was MO3 and I was talking to my lawyer and I was telling him, hey, they got a price on my head, you know, I'm doing this, I'm moving around, I'm shooting people, but they got a price on my head. What would your advice be?
You don't want your lawyer for this one. You want a friend, and a friend would tell him, find a way to put this to bed, to make peace with it.
Right.
Because you can't live your life constantly under fear. And unfortunately, what happens when you get two individuals with money and one puts the price on one's head? Someone puts a price on the other person's head. Right. And so, and it's one of the biggest fears I have right now because it's spring. We're going into summertime and this is coming out. And you still have people on both sides who probably feel very strongly about what took place.
Right.
And so that's a danger to all of us. Right. In a sense that you have individuals out there who may still consider this an active war. So, but I would tell him basically, man, find a way to put this to bed, make peace so that you can live your life. Because right now, the situation going on with the families and the innocence that is falling to these type of crimes. Like when MO3 got shot, a pedestrian got shot.
Right. And I heard that the pedestrian returned fire as he was shot.
I missed that part.
That's what I heard.
I missed that part. So, man, you just have to I would tell them just to make peace with it. And let's find a way to move on and live your life.
Right. Will rap lyrics be a part of this case?
Of course. Of course. As a defense team, I'm bringing them in. And I'm using the fact that, look, you used it against rappers. Don't tell me now that all of a sudden I can't use it to show why my client reacted the way he did. And that's going to be a big battle in the court. It's going to be a big battle in the court.
If this goes to trial, will it be televised?
It's a good question. It's a good question. Depends on the judge. But there could be portions televised or done similar to Andrea Yeager's trial. But the difference is this is extremely sensitive. And depending on the witnesses going up and down on the stand, and what other cases they might be involved in, there could be a chance that it won't be televised. So you just have to see how the judge chooses to handle this. Now it'll be used, like I said, to assist, but it won't be the final and judgment and do all of it.
I'll argue with some more, but we'll do that later. With that being said, man, we just want to thank you for coming up and clearing up some of the finer points on this Yella Beezy case.
Thank you.
You are a gentleman and a scholar. Larry Taylor, RealLyfe Lawyer. You are a RealLyfe lawyer, a RealLyfe street star.
Lawyer. Yeah, so I'm gonna cut that up and make it right. Real life.